You know what's strange? Sometimes, you can go weeks without thinking about someone. And then out of nowhere, something tiny happens. You hear a song. You see a certain type of light at the end of the day. You smell something familiar. And suddenly, it's like your entire body remembers a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. Not just them. And that's the part that hurts the most. Because maybe, you don't actually miss that person anymore. Maybe what you miss is who you were when they were in your life. The version of you that felt excited to wake up. The version of you that checked their phone and smiled without even noticing. The version of you that still believed something good was about to happen. And ever since they left, life hasn't felt the same. Not worse all the time. Just different. Quieter. Like part of your emotional world slowly lost color. You still function. You still talk to people. You still laugh sometimes. But deep down, something feels emotionally distant now. And maybe you've noticed this too. You keep going back to old memories. Not even on purpose. Your mind just drifts there. Late at night. While driving. While listening to music. While trying to fall asleep. And it's exhausting. Because part of you is tired of caring. You want to move on. You want to stop replaying things. But another part of you keeps reopening emotional doors you already know lead to pain. And honestly, that confuses you. Because you don't even know if you still want them anymore. So why does it still hurt? Why does your chest still tighten when something reminds you of them? Why do certain memories still feel alive? Because this was never only about them. That's what nobody tells you. Sometimes heartbreak has very little to do with the actual person. Sometimes it's about the emotional version of yourself that existed while you were loving them. And losing that version of yourself can feel worse than losing the relationship. Because when someone enters your life deeply enough, they don't just become part of your routine. They change the way you experience yourself. You become more open, more expressive, more emotionally available. You start romanticizing life again. Songs hit differently. Ordinary moments suddenly feel meaningful. Even sitting next to them doing absolutely nothing felt important somehow. And for a while, you feel emotionally alive. That's the dangerous part. Because once you experience that intensity, it's hard going back to emotional silence. And maybe that's why losing them affected you so deeply. Not because they were perfect. Not because the relationship was perfect. You know it wasn't. You remember the confusion too. The overthinking. The moments you stared at your phone wondering why they suddenly felt distant. The moments you pretended things didn't hurt because you were scared of pushing them away. You remember feeling anxious over small changes. You remember rereading messages. You remember trying to feel emotionally secure around someone who slowly stopped giving you consistency. But somehow, your mind still romanticizes the connection. And that happens because nostalgia edits reality. It removes the emotional instability and keeps the emotional intensity. So now your brain keeps showing you highlights. The late night conversations. The laughter. The feeling of being chosen. The feeling that someone finally saw you. And when your current life feels emotionally flat, your mind naturally wants to return there, even if it hurt you. But here's where it gets deeper. A lot of people think they miss a person, when what they actually miss is the emotional identity they built around that person. Think about it. Who were you during that phase of your life? You probably felt more hopeful, more emotionally connected. Maybe you took more pictures. Maybe music felt more personal. Maybe you cared more about little things. That relationship became tied to an entire emotional atmosphere. And now when you remember them, you're not only remembering a person, you're remembering a feeling, a version of life, a version of yourself. And honestly, that's why moving on can feel so difficult. Because part of you believes that if you let go completely, You lose that version of yourself forever. So your mind keeps going back. Not necessarily because you want them back, but because you want to feel emotionally alive again. And this is the part nobody really talks about. Sometimes after heartbreak, people don't become cold. They become careful. Very careful. They stop expressing themselves naturally. They stop saying what they really feel. They stop getting attached too quickly. Not because they don't care. Because they remember what happened the last time they cared too much. And maybe that happened to you. Maybe before all this. You were softer. More emotionally free. Then life taught you how painful emotional attachment can become. So you hesitate. You overthink. You hold parts of yourself back. Even when you genuinely like someone. Because deep down, your nervous system remembers the pain. And it's trying to protect you from experiencing it again. But protecting yourself all the time has a cost. Eventually, you stop fully feeling things. And that emotional numbness can become addictive too. Because numbness feels safer than vulnerability. Safer than hoping. Safer than caring deeply. But it also makes life feel emotionally distant. And maybe that's why you've been feeling disconnected lately. Not because you're broken. Not because you're incapable of love. Maybe you're just emotionally exhausted. Exhausted from carrying feelings nobody around you fully understands. Exhausted from pretending you're okay when part of you still misses who you used to be. And honestly, that version of you probably felt beautiful. Not physically. Emotionally. More open. More hopeful. More alive. And losing access to that feeling can feel devastating. But here's something important. That version of you was never fully created by them. They awakened it. There's a difference. They triggered emotions that already existed inside you. The depth, the softness, the excitement, the ability to love. Those things were always yours. They just made it easier for those emotions to come to the surface. And maybe healing starts when you realize that. Because if someone could awaken those feelings in you once, then those feelings still exist. Even now. Even after everything. Even if life feels emotionally quieter these days. You're still capable of feeling deeply. You're still capable of connection. You're still capable of becoming emotionally alive again. Just not in the exact same way. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. Because eventually you stop trying to recreate old emotions. You stop chasing people just because they remind you of a feeling. You stop confusing emotional intensity with emotional safety. And slowly, you begin reconnecting with yourself instead. Not all at once. Very quietly. You start enjoying small moments again. You stop checking old conversations. You stop reopening emotional wounds just to feel something familiar. You start realizing your life didn't end when that relationship ended. It just changed. And one day, without even noticing when it happened, you hear that old song again. And this time, it doesn't destroy you. You remember, but you don't drown in it anymore. And that's when you realize something. You were never only grieving a person. You were grieving a version of yourself you thought disappeared when they left. But it didn't disappear. It was just buried underneath the pain. And maybe the real healing was never about getting them back. Maybe it was always about finding your way back to yourself.